We are all set. Look at that. We are ready to go. It is Trending Thursday. So good to be back this morning. Good morning, everyone. This is Carol, aka Naughty Bus, live with you.
Sistas. Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Janice, aka Wellness Diva 5.0. Lighting in here is not so good today. I lost one light and it's very, very cloudy. So therefore, the lighting issues, but that's okay. We still go forward. And excuse me, what is trending in your world? You know, I think all the time things are trending in ways that maybe we didn't realize or, you know, couldn't put our finger on, you know, why is this happening or why is this happening this way? And trending can be good things. Trending can also be things that might annoy us or things that are just like, you know, get to our heart and soul. For me lately, I feel as I've been trying to catch up with my rest. So that is kind of what's trending for me. So my times have been off, and normally I'd be kind of in freak out mode, but I'm like, I'm just going with the flow. My body says I need to rest. I rest.
Absolutely. And a lot of times we don't listen to our bodies. And of course, you know, we always share, we're always authentically us, you know, regarding our own health and wellness journeys, because we want to share with all of you, because a lot of you go through the similar things or certain journeys or certain pivots in the journey. So yeah, I, you know, as we've talked about, I've basically changed over to almost 100% plant-based lifestyle. I've cut out, I think since September 1st, I've had, besides the sausage in the stuffing for Thanksgiving, other than that, I think I've had beef maybe 2 times, possibly 3. So that's averaging out basically once a month. So I'm pleased with that. My cholesterol is on the higher side. My blood pressure is on the higher side, and we're working to get that under control. I always prefer to do it by elimination of things that I can control, which is obviously different things that you eat, right? So I've gone to a plant-based diet. I eat more fish. I never was a fried food type of person anyways, other than, you know, French fries here and there. So that really was never an issue for me. I don't like fried ice cream. I've also given up probably 95% dairy. And why I say 95%, because obviously if you go out to eat, sometimes there's a shredded cheese on it or maybe a little melted cheese here or there. I'm not in the kitchen of a dining room or a restaurant, so I'm sure they're using butter where I use plant-based butter. So I'm realistic to say that no, I'm not dairy-free, but I'm about 95% dairy-free. I've been using plant-based butter now for 2 years anyways. I love it. I cook with it. I bake with it. I don't tell any difference. For what I control at home, you know, we do eat plant-based meals for most of the time. And, you know, we've introduced a lot of vegan, so replacing the dairy sometimes can be difficult. But we found with the vegan cream cheese, you know, which I put in the mashed potatoes, you know, when I make my creamy mashed potatoes, and like they have the shredded cheese, the shredded mozzarella, the Parmesan cheese, those things work out beautifully. Have not noticed a difference. But I'm at that point where I've been really changing my lifestyle, but it's not really budging the numbers the way the doctor wants to budget the numbers. So, you know, we're kind of playing around, getting different ideas. So medication, sometimes a lot of people say, oh, you don't look like your cholesterol would be high. Well, both my husband and I have a high cholesterol level, could be hereditary. We are not obese. You know, that you would expect somebody that has a high cholesterol, sometimes it's hereditary. So you really, you want to focus on your good numbers versus your bad numbers, but you got to not ignore your bad numbers. So we're doing that. And it's a process, you know, when you change your lifestyle drastically. But the good thing is, I've also been listening to many, many different doctors that don't automatically want to go to medication. We are actually supposed to have 3 to 4 servings of vegetables and fruits every day. So that's why I introduced a plant-based diet, because I wasn't doing that. I'd grab, because I've got other things going on. We already talked about that. I had my colonoscopy. I did my upper GI. Like everyone should, you got to check the inside, because again, looking from the outside, you would know that I would have kind of these things going on. So obviously I've been diagnosed with diverticulitis and gastronitis, which is another word for GERD. It is actually the GERD. Each letter of GERD stands for something. It's basically all about gastro issues with your stomach. So I'm on right now, just trying a generic brand of Prilosec that seems to help. And as we talked about with the dry cough, that is associated with that, because the acid reflux splashes back up to your throat. And that is why typically a lot of people that have that also have a dry cough. So what's trending is really reestablishing those boundaries of what I definitely know that I can never go back to, and what I've got to implement. So what's trending is me diving into recipe books, diving into different ways of cooking, and making sure that I'm in control of it. It's not up to John to take control of my health. It's not up for my sister to take control of my health. It's not up for any of you. It's up to me. And we all have to be accountable. So for me, that's what's trending. But there's also another big thing trending, which is totally off subject. So this may be a segment of nothing to do about nothing trending, but kind of does. So anyways, I often wonder, I don't know if anyone else wonders this. Obviously, the person occupying the nice White House that we have in DC did I don't know if it was a live or, because I don't necessarily watch him, I only got clips. So they wanted to, and then you have the gentleman that he relies heavily on for information regarding science. So the word Omicron is the new name for the new variant. And apparently, no surprise, we've had our first case of it. So they say in California. But when I heard of the word, I'm like, how do they come up with the names of these stupid things, these variants? So my point is, so my headline was, the new Star Wars villain, Omicron, the new deception.
There's so much I could say right now, and I have to keep it clean, and I have to watch the F-bombs, because I know sometimes children are just listening. But what I will say about this, before that came out the other day, about 5 days ago, the New York governor, in anticipation of Omni coming to New York, declared a state of emergency.
Oh, you did?
She did. There's a new governor.
Oh, that's right. That's right, because Cuomo's out.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say something about the Cuomo issues in just a moment. So I find it very interesting that everyone is, we're going to follow the science. We're going to follow the science. And then the banning the travel issues, which when President Trump did that was xenophobic, blah, blah, blah.
Any kind of phobics that was out there? Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, and I'm really listening to this. And then they showed Fauci also addressing, I think it was yesterday, as a matter of fact. And Peter Ducey from Fox News specifically asked, well, you're banning all this stuff from people that come in, and it doesn't matter if they've been vaccinated, they've shown their card, they have to quarantine. So he didn't say it's not that we're following science, but his point was, so why are we doing that? But we're not doing that at the border. He said, oh, well, basically said those are separate issues.
Of course, they're separate issues. It doesn't fit the narrative, and I think that's part of the problem, and that is why the person occupying the White House has a 30% approval rating. He's plummeting almost as fast as the gas prices are going up high. He's plummeting.
Yeah, that's so funny that you said that, because I thought the same thing. That this administration is not taking responsibility for everything. And I just find it almost amusing to a certain point where everything they accused Trump of, they're actually doing twofold. And plus they don't take accountability for any of their actions.
No, and even the little clip of the person occupying the White House when before he got into the White House, he made a declaration, and it was pretty pronounced, where at that point, I believe, under President Trump, sadly, 220,000 people lost their lives to the virus before. Obviously, a lot of it had to do with before we knew about it. Had the mononuclear, hopefully I'm pronouncing it, fusion, the vaccine, all these different things in place. But, once warp speed hit the market, things were done. More mandates came out, stricter mandates, masking children in school. And yet under his presidency, over 350,000 people have died. And some of them were vaccinated. And the surge right now, as I pointed out, Massachusetts alone is the highest state with the highest vaccination rate. They're over 83% now. And their numbers are the highest in the country. So in per capita, Florida, who never shut down the way they did, are actually making the state choice for wearing the mask, choice at schools or wherever, choice for the vaccination. And he's also made his own local state laws that also talk about those things. They have the lowest rate in the country, and they're a much bigger state than Massachusetts. So when you look at that, when you look at the whole picture of those that have these stringent mandates, as well as now New York, Faker Baker, and I believe it's between those two and maybe 18 other states that are going to introduce a barcode vaccination card through your phone or some happy jazz. I don't know how they're doing that. They're doing some sort of barcode. It all boils down to control. But the good news that's trending in Massachusetts is that Faker Baker is not rerunning. Hallelujah, amen. Now, a lot of people think, well, as bad as he was, they're nervous about who is actually taking place. But I hear there is a particular person that is running and for the Republican ticket, conservative ticket. And he reminds me a lot of DeSantis. So I'm hoping a lot of what he does really gets people excited in Massachusetts to go out and vote because sadly, what they've been doing isn't working. If they're going backwards, you're not doing something right. And I don't understand why people don't grasp that concept, because that phenomena, if you want to say that way, is in every aspect of our lives. If you are on a new journey, a health and wellness journey, and you've tried, say, a certain lifestyle, but you're still gaining weight, you got to change the lifestyle again, because that's not fitting what your body specifically needs, right? Or if you've decided that, from your health and wellness, from a mindset standpoint, you need to change up how, you perceive things and what the energy that you're putting out. And you keep going back to the same old narrative of what you've always done. Obviously, that's bringing you back the other way. You want to go forward. You always want to go forward in your journey. You always want to go forward in your steps. So if you have states that are so tied up in propaganda and ideology, and they're digging their heels in, because I do believe that, the vaccination and the mask, all these mandates are just digging their heels in, because that's their propaganda. But if your numbers are still plummeting the opposite way, you're not making progress, people. You're not, your government is not making progress in your local backyards to get you guys going forward. So that has something to say. I don't, there are some people, and the rate of 36% in plummeting is the reason why, because people now are starting to see it. They don't need to not necessarily even understand all the ins and outs of the political world. Numbers tell no lies. Facts are facts. And as we often talk about, there's three sides. There's this side, there's that side, and then there's the truth. And the numbers speak for themselves. I'm also finding that, I've heard from a couple friends that have, sadly, started with the temperature and the whole thing. One of them immediately, I think within 2 days, did the fusion, is already starting to feel better. I only know of a handful because I really don't know that many people that have received the virus or got the virus. But I do know a lot of people that have gotten the vaccine that sadly have really bad side effects. And we're talking long-lasting side effects, severe side effects. So again, I go back to, even with my own health and wellness regarding, what I'm going through with my stomach and blood pressure and all that, I always like to try. And I love that the fact that my doctor says, absolutely, we're partners in your health and wellness. So you want to go a more naturopathic way, I'm with you. Let's give it a time frame. Let's see if we start budging those numbers. But if those numbers aren't budging, then we've got to change things up. So I'm not so stubborn that I refuse to take medication. I just like to try it a naturopathic way. And for me, I think if these states that are so tight with the mandates, if they just made choice, it's not saying, like, I don't care whether somebody wears a mask, I don't care whether somebody gets a vaccine, but give people the choice, you might start seeing some numbers change. You might start seeing some things happen. And the sad part about implementing a mandate to get into a restaurant, who does that really hurt? Because there's always going to be one restaurant that's going to say, I welcome you. I don't care whether you're vaccinated, whether you wear a mask. I don't care about your sex. I don't care about your gender. I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your politics. Come in, let's break bread. Let me serve you. Let me add value to your dining experience. Versus mandating small business owners to make sure now that they've got to hire security to check a vaccination card, or you can't eat in my establishment. Well, guess what happens? Yeah, you're going to get your few loyal customers that believe in that ideology, but guess what? Those that don't, they're going to seek out other avenues to go enjoy and still enjoy life and go outside, go indoors to have a nice meal of an establishment that gives choice. And I think choice is part of freedom. And that sadly is what's trending. Do we still have those freedoms? And why not? Why not? Because if one state is doing it one way and they're showing progression, our economy's booming in Florida, locally, all over the state, you can't even keep houses, the inventory for sale because everyone from the outside's coming in, which we don't mind. Just leave your red politics, leave your blue politics at home. Or you know what, just leave your politics at home, period. We've got a great governor that sees a vision of prosperity. And he's also encouraging law enforcement. If you're having a hard time in the state, he's welcoming in there. They're giving out sign-on bonuses. So yeah, what do you say about that, Jan? That's all trending.
Well, I have a lot to say. I always do. And maybe in a different type of way. But, I just want to, excuse me, I just want to say that I am pro-choice with the vaccine. I was before Ryan's accident. I still am. I am against the mandates. They serve no purpose. It's about control. In my opinion, it's about socialism. It's about the ideology of, oh, you can't go here. Well, let me see your papers. Where does that bring us back in history? Who was checking papers? The Germans. Hitler. I don't want to go there. I don't think anybody does. I think the premise of the ideology of a society like that is appealing to some, not like it was in Germany, but that's what it's trending toward. That's the ideology, excuse me, that is the ideology that you want to go toward. That is not necessarily what you maybe want or what you're thinking of.
Yeah,
So what yeah,
people don't. You're absolutely right, Jan. I'm going to interject for a second. I think there's some people don't really grasp just that little piece that you just shared. You can't go into this establishment. We need to see your papers. That's mind-boggling. Not mind-boggling for the United States of America. You need papers to go into a certain business. And I don't think people really grasp that. That, oh, it's a vaccination card. It's papers.
it's papers, it's the idea of control. And by the way, nobody other than myself, my physician, and my husband, my son, to whom I would, probably share stuff with, probably you, has a right to see my medical information, period, end of discussion. So yes, I am pro-choice. I am totally against the mandate situation. I was even involved with, some of you may remember, I'm almost positive I told everybody about this. I did attend a protest. I am so sorry, I'm losing my voice. And I had the ability to speak that day, not only as a concerned citizen, but as the mom of somebody who suffered the ill effects of the Pfizer vaccine. Now, did that happen to everybody? No, and thank God it didn't. So to say that he's in a category of very few, yes, unfortunately, he is. It is my firm belief that what he went through is a direct and proximate result of the ill effects of the Pfizer vaccine. Of course, I can't medically prove that. I specifically asked that quite a few times and was never ever given a straight answer. But from what they said, how they said it, what they did not say, told me all that I needed to know as a parent. So I come from a very humble, very personal place about that. I don't care if you wear a mask. That's everybody's choice. For instance, North Haven, you can pretty much go anywhere without masks. Hamden, it's like the mask Nazis over in Hamden. It's ridiculous. But again, the mayor of Hamden has mandated masks all over the place. It's like the follow nation of, okay. There's a great YouTube video about I think it's called The First One. And in other words, this man is at a concert and he's out there and he decides to go out there. He's the only one there for a while. He's dancing and having a good time. I think it's called The First Follower. And then all of a sudden a couple other people join. And then more people join. And then more people join. So who's the follower in all this? So you have to wonder where, Gary, we're talking about this last night, where people are getting their information from. You can pretty much tell, and I don't want to say, and I don't say with a lot of authority, it is my opinion that you pretty much can tell who watched CNN and who doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
By the way they act. Oh, gotta stay away, gotta stay away. So, what is that telling us as a society? If at the beginning of the pandemic, we're like, okay, we're following the science, but we're following the science to fit our narrative. So therefore it's our narrative and you have to do what we say. We got to start rising up, people.
We do, because the point being, a lot of it is connecting the dots. And sadly, if you're not getting news that kind of blankly tells you what's really going on, and of course, I'm not saying that any one network doesn't spin things. Of course they all do. So we're not even saying just watch the news. I rarely watch the news. I'll get news clips here and there. And if there's like a particular guest or somebody or a podcast that I want to listen to, I will. But I just do the digging myself. And, I have, documented. I have now, I think I'm about to take my 47th flight since 2020 when this all, I took my first flight. I was in Mexico when the Shista hit the fan with the virus, and that was in March 2020. And I'm about to, I think it's my 47th flight coming up. I have not stopped flying. So I've been the only passenger on a plane. I've never quarantined except for one time, and that was just a precaution for a special loved one. But other than that, I obviously boosted my immune system with overflowing it with zinc and quercetin and all kinds of other different avenues. You should always take your local mulberry. I think it's a mulberry syrup. Is good for you. And there's just different things that you should be doing to boost up your immune system. So even with this new Omicron, which is such a, again, a weird name, I don't know where they get the names from. I'd be interested to find that out. There are different variances of the flu. There are different levels of a cold. When did it come to be that, okay, if you're not feeling well, the old practice was you stayed home. You're not spreading your germs. If you have a fever and it persists to a certain degree, you get medical attention. And the fact is that the doctor that discovered this new variant also has been very on point to say this is nowhere near the strain of COVID-19. This is kind of like cold-like symptoms. Sometimes it accompanies a high temp, but the symptoms are far less. And I find it ironic that the governor of New York is in a state of emergency over one case. But
that was before this one case came out.
Oh, that's even worse. So, what does that tell you, folks? Did anyone call a state of emergency when there was a flu? When we had the flus of, 1700, 1800, like that stuff, of course. But really? I don't even know if they did a state of emergency way back then. But what I'm saying is there have been outbreaks before, and I saw an interesting study, and I believe it was the mumps. It was either polio or the mumps. And I read it real quick, and I went to go write it down, and then I got sidetracked. You know how that goes. And it talked about how high the vaccination rate was, but yet 94% still got the disease, the mumps or the polio. I can't remember which one it was. So vaccinations as far back then that they are today, what is the point? Supposedly the vaccine reduces the symptoms, but if you talk to Dan Bongino, listen to Dan Bongino, he obviously, is battling some other things. His doctor recommended that he get the vaccine, which he did. He completed all his, whatever the amount he was supposed to. And he got the virus in the worst way, the COVID-19 virus, in the worst way a couple weeks ago, maybe about 10 days ago. And he said the symptoms were not lessened, and they didn't dissipate until he ended up taking the fusion within the first 3 days. And he said after that, he felt fine. He said it wasn't the vaccine that made the side effects lower. It was the antibodies. It was the fusion that he took. So, and he has a compromised immune system. So if someone like him can get through it, again, then we go back to, we talk about what should be trending is obesity. That's the #1 killer in our world right now is obesity. And I do want to correct something, because I believe when we talked about it the other day, I was saying that the virus is, I think I worded it something to the effect of the virus is attacking the fat cells. That's not accurate. And I didn't mean to word it that way. It's attacking your cells, but obviously the fat that's around those cells makes it difficult for the body to fight off the bacteria, the virus, that's in the system. And it's actually not bacteria, but the virus that's in the viral poison that's in the system that's attacking all your vital organs, your arteries around the heart. And because your body, when you're obese, your fatness covers your organs, it surrounds them, it impedes them. So what happens is why people who are overweight, and I say severely overweight, struggle with harder symptoms is because their body's actually working harder to fight it off because of all the fat that's in there, to get the blood flowing, to get the organs moving. So I want to make sure I made that clarification. But, that's what should be trending. And again, even with this new variants, not one mention of boosting your immune system, not one mention, are you overweight? Most people, and I'm not saying all, but most people that have passed away from the virus were obese. We're not saying that to put obese people down, but that's the fact. So you have to take charge of how can I get some of this fat off? And it's not going to, we know it's not easy. You're a perfect example of that. I mean, I was overweight, not to where you were, but getting up to 38 pounds overweight, that's heading in the wrong direction. And if I didn't correct that, I would have been a candidate that if I got it, my body would have a hard time fighting it off. You went through that experience of losing over 100 pounds. So again, we know the struggles of losing weight. We know it is not easy. We know it takes a good, strong mindset to say, look, I'm worth this. And sadly, it's my journey. And I got to be the warrior in my own journey. But you got to start somewhere. And again, with this new variants, they're not talking about it. They're not mentioning anything about health and wellness and obesity.
Right. And back to New York and specifically, because I've talked about the Cuomos before, specifically the the now defunct CNN host, Chris Cuomo. I don't have a lot of nice things to say, but this is how I will say it. The truth will always bite your ass. There, I've said it. I'm not going to say anymore. The truth will always bite your ass.
That is true. And I actually, again, they're brothers. It is a natural thing for siblings to protect, to help, to advise. And because he's on a indefinite leave, I'm not going to rush to judgment. I'm taking that avenue because if we're talking about due process and we're talking about wait to the facts out, they have to go on both sides. So for me, I, personally, I'm just going to wait, and it's a wait and see game, see what is uncovered. I don't have a lot of faith in the system when it comes to elite people. Hunter Biden is a perfect example of that. So, I hope that justice is served and that when the facts come out, then people can make up their mind. But to me, I find it very plausible only because siblings do help each other out. And they're very close brothers. So I could see where he was advising him and or giving him strategies. Not to say that he was giving good advice. Lying is never good advice if that's what occurred. Misinterpreting or misinforming or misguiding the public is not a wise advice to give either. But at the same time, we don't know the facts. So we want to make sure that we have the facts before we weigh in. On Hunter Biden, we do have a lot of facts. So it's easy to weigh in on that stuff.
That's why I only said the truth will always come out.
Yeah.
And it will always bite your ass.
Yeah.
If you misrepresented it.
Exactly. Absolutely. Absolutely. So with Trending Thursday, I always like to say, besides, we know what's going on in our own world with our own journeys, but we have to be the trendsetters of kindness, the trendsetters of thinking positivity, even when you feel like, right before, I'm going to give you an example because we're always raw and real. Before I came on, wasn't feeling my best. Started my new logbook that I have to do for the doctor. I'm following doctor's orders. So that's good. But I didn't like what I saw. And I'm like, how am I supposed to go out there and, talk about positivity, in such a way that is going to come across authentic, with integrity when I'm not feeling so positive. But you know what I find? I find when, we are authentically us and we share the rawness of what goes on in our own world, in our own lives, in our own journey, it actually helps me to get to that positive place. So I'm grateful that we have this platform that I could be honest and share that, things are, I'm in a bumpy road right now. But I appreciate the support. And, if you're a person out there that's, finding it difficult to collaborate with other people, if you're going through some sort of medical thing that, you want to share, but you don't want to share, but you want to have support. We are two people that you can count on, that we are going to share authentically us, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the frustrating part. And, sometimes we have a hard time getting ourselves geared up to be positive, but that's why we have this platform. So as much as it's helping all of you, which we absolutely love, and we appreciate so many of our viewers and our listeners and your messages, guess what? It helps us too. Don't you think, Jan?
Oh, yes. Positive influences breathe a positive impact. That's what we're all about. And on that note, Trending Thursday, go out and make it a good one. My name is Janice, AKA Wellness Diva 5.0, and I'm with
TwoSistas, and this is Carol, so AKA Naughty Boss, about to get in some, I'm going to go out for a brisk walk this morning, not doing pickleball this morning, but I'm definitely going to get my heart rate pumping, and we want you to go out there and be the trendsetter. What will it be? You let us know. We will see you tomorrow for Fantabulous Friday. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everyone.